Kherson was liberated in November 2022, but the region's left bank remains occupied by the Russian army to this day. The front line stretches along the Dnipro river through the entire Kherson region, and large-scale cross-river raids seem like an impossible task for each side. The impression arises that military operations here have reached a dead end. But in fact the war is in full swing, both on the banks of the river and the islands in between. We travel to the south of Ukraine to give you an inside perspective through the eyes of Ukrainian air reconnaissance units.
We are with one of the air reconnaissance units that are flying over the left bank of Dnipro in the Kherson region. Their UAVs are flying over the enemy heads all day and all night.
This group is part of a counter-artillery reconnaissance unit. They are quite literally the eyes of the artillery. Their birds fly over the Dnipro river searching for targets on the left bank to adjust artillery fire. In modern warfare, artillery without drones works at just 20–30% of its full potential.
There are no big infantry groups or offensives with heavy machinery here, so it's mostly artillery duels, counter-battery fighting, and the reconnaissance to go with it.
With the Ukrainian-made UAV FURIA, soldiers are able to fly deep into Russian-controlled territories, avoiding enemy air defense and electronic warfare systems. Their record is 35 kilometers from the takeoff point, which is very impressive considering all the obstacles.
We find targets, we pass on the coordinates. Once confirmed, we fly out, make them bleed, and return home happy.
Here the soldier is doing a pre-flight check for the US-made UAV Puma. It is operated by over 20 countries around the world, but here in Ukraine it's getting the most airtime by far.
There is a lot of manpower and heavy equipment on the left bank. It's leafy, so it's hard to spot them. They're hiding. But there are still a lot of telltale signs.
We are not allowed to film the map for security reasons, but Ukrainian soldiers have made hundreds of red marks, all of which indicate Russian targets on the left bank. All these are high-interest targets that are yet to be destroyed. But it's not just during the daytime that the birds are up in the air. We went out with a special reconnaissance unit that is watching over the left bank and the islands next to Kherson. To protect ourselves in the operation, we entered the position during the night.
A lot of exciting things happen at night. Fuckers are trying to move, mainly in the twilight. Boats coming and going, troop rotations, moving as fast as possible so they don't get spotted, just like we do.
The commercial quadcopters that the unit uses are relatively cheap. With some modifications, these drones can drop explosives on enemy heads. Here they target enemy boats and subversive groups, so-called saboteurs, that are often trying to cross the river. At the front line, such copters are quite expendable. In 2 months they lost 3 copters because of the enemy EW, which is actually a good result.
It is what it is. That's why drones are consumables. Where is the shelling?
The beautiful sunrise is greeted with the enemy tank shelling. Russians are targeting the islands and the so-called grey zone. This is where the Ukrainian reconnaissance units are operating, storming Russian positions with small groups, pushing them further and further from Kherson.
For now it's important to take this territory because it will be more safety for civilians and more safety for us because we can control the situation and don't give enemies any possibility to bring here more soldiers and so on.